The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Meadowbrook Park as Sarah Mitchell pulled into the parking lot. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, the way they always did when she brought Emma to new places. Through the rearview mirror, she watched her 7-year-old daughter sitting quietly in the backseat, her small hands folded neatly in her lap, blue eyes taking in everything but saying nothing. Sarah had been Emma's mother for 3 years now, ever since the adoption was finalized. In that time, she had heard her daughter speak exactly 0 words. Not to her, not to doctors, not to teachers, not to anyone. The specialists had various theories. Selective mutism, they called it. Trauma from her early years in foster care. Sarah didn't care about the labels. She only cared about the little girl who had somehow found her way into her heart and refused to leave. "Ready for some fresh air, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, turning to face Emma with the gentle smile she had perfected over the years. Emma nodded once, a barely perceptible movement that most people would miss entirely. But Sarah had learned to read her daughter's language of subtle gestures and meaningful glances. The playground buzzed with the usual afternoon energy. Children ran between swings and slides, their laughter mixing with parents' conversations and the distant sound of an ice cream truck playing its cheerful melody. Sarah felt the familiar knot in her stomach as she watched other families. The easy chatter between parents and children. The way kids called out to their friends. The natural flow of communication that seemed so effortless for everyone else. As CEO of Mitchell & Associates, Sarah commanded boardrooms filled with executives twice her age. She negotiated million-dollar deals before lunch and gave presentations that could make or break careers. But here, watching her silent daughter navigate a world built on words, she felt completely powerless. Emma walked beside her, taking in every detail of their surroundings. The girl missed nothing. Her eyes tracked a butterfly landing on a nearby flower. She noticed when a toddler dropped his toy truck. She saw an elderly man feeding pigeons by the pond. Emma absorbed the world around her like a sponge, but she never added her voice to its soundtrack. They found a bench near the swing set, and Sarah settled in to watch Emma explore. This was their routine. Emma would venture out slowly, testing the safety of each new environment before committing to play. Sarah would remain close enough to provide comfort if needed, but far enough away to let her daughter find her own way. The swing set stood empty except for one occupied swing. A man with kind eyes and slightly rumpled clothes was pushing a little girl who couldn't have been more than 4 years old. The child squealed with delight each time the swing reached its highest point. "Higher, Daddy, higher," the little girl called out, her voice carrying pure joy across the playground. The man laughed, a warm sound that seemed to wrap around the entire area like a blanket. "Hold on tight, Sophie. Here we go." Sarah watched Emma's reaction to this display. Her daughter had stopped walking and stood perfectly still, observing the father and daughter with intense focus. Something about the scene had captured her attention completely. The man noticed Emma standing there and offered a friendly wave. "Hello there. Would you like to use one of the swings? We're happy to share." Emma took a small step backward, instinctively moving closer to Sarah's position on the bench. But she didn't look away from the man and his daughter. "It's okay, honey," Sarah called out softly. "You can play if you want to." The man helped his daughter off the swing and knelt down to her level. "Sophie, why don't you show this nice girl how much fun the slides can be? I bet she'd like to see." Sophie nodded enthusiastically and ran toward the playground equipment. But instead of following her own daughter, the man approached the now empty swing next to where Emma stood. "These swings are pretty great," he said, settling onto the seat designed for someone much smaller than his adult frame. His knees came up almost to his chest, and he looked slightly ridiculous. "Though I think they might be designed for someone your size instead of mine." Emma's lips twitched. Just the tiniest hint of a smile, but Sarah saw it from her bench and felt her heart skip a beat. The man continued his one-sided conversation as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "I'm David, by the way. That tornado over there on the monkey bars is my daughter Sophie. We come here every Tuesday and Friday after I pick her up from daycare." He gestured toward his daughter, who had indeed claimed the monkey bars and was swinging from rung to rung with impressive determination. "She's teaching me all sorts of things about playgrounds," David continued. "Did you know that the best slides are the ones that are just a little bit scary? And that swings work better when you pump your legs like you're trying to touch the sky." Emma took a cautious step closer to the empty swing beside David. "Would you like to try?" he asked. "I promise these swings are much more comfortable for people who aren't ridiculously tall like me." Sarah held her breath as Emma considered the invitation. Social situations were particularly challenging for her daughter. The presence of strangers usually sent Emma retreating to Sarah's side within minutes. But something about David's easy manner seemed different. He wasn't trying too hard. He wasn't speaking to Emma like she was fragile or broken. He was simply there, present and kind without any agenda. Emma climbed onto the swing seat and gripped the chains with both hands. "Perfect," David said. "Now, the secret is to lean back a little and push with your legs. Like you're trying to kick something really high up in the air." He demonstrated the motion from his own swing, looking even more ridiculous as his adult-sized body tried to generate momentum on the child-sized equipment. Emma began to swing gently, her movements tentative at first but growing more confident with each arc. "That's it," David encouraged. "You're getting the hang of it." Sarah found herself leaning forward on the bench, captivated by this simple interaction. She had seen dozens of well-meaning adults try to connect with Emma over the years. Teachers, neighbors, relatives, they all meant well, but something about their efforts usually felt forced or overwhelming to her sensitive daughter. David was different. He swung beside Emma in comfortable companionship, occasionally offering gentle encouragement but never pressuring her to respond. When Sophie ran over to join them, he included both girls in his running commentary about playground physics and the optimal angle for maximum swing height. "Daddy, watch this," Sophie called out, pumping her legs with impressive vigor. "I'm watching," David replied. "You're practically flying." Emma's eyes followed Sophie's movements, and Sarah could see her daughter analyzing the technique, trying to understand how to replicate it. "The trick is timing," David explained, as if he had read Emma's thoughts. "You lean back when you're going forward, and lean forward when you're going back. It's like a dance between you and gravity." Emma adjusted her posture slightly, experimenting with David's advice. Within a few minutes, she was swinging higher than Sarah had ever seen her go before. "Look at you go," David cheered. "You're a natural." That's when it happened. Emma was swinging particularly high, her hair streaming behind her in the wind, when she suddenly called out, "I can see everything from up here." The words rang across the playground like church bells. Clear, bright, and impossible to mistake. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. 3 years of silence, broken by a moment of pure joy on a Tuesday afternoon swing set. David didn't make a big show of Emma's first spoken words. He didn't gasp or point or draw attention to the moment. Instead, he simply responded as if Emma had been talking all along. "It's pretty amazing what you can see from up there, isn't it?" he said. "Sometimes I think swings were invented just so we could get a different view of the world. I can see my mom," Emma continued, waving towards Sarah's bench. "And the ice cream truck. And those ducks by the pond." Sarah waved back, tears streaming down her face but her smile brighter than the afternoon sun. "Those ducks come here every day," David shared. "Sophie and I brought them some bread once. They're very polite ducks. They wait in line and everything." Emma giggled. Actually giggled. The sound was like music Sarah had been waiting her whole life to hear. "Can we bring them bread sometime?" Emma asked, directing the question toward Sarah. "Absolutely," Sarah managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. "We can bring them bread anytime you want." Sophie ran over to claim the swing on Emma's other side, and suddenly the three children, Sophie, Emma, and David, who was still folded onto his too small swing, were swinging together like they had been friends for years. "I'm Sophie," the little girl announced to Emma. "What's your name?" "Emma," came the reply, clear and confident. "Do you want to go down the big slide with me, Emma? It's super fast." Emma looked toward Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay," Emma said, "but maybe we should start with the smaller one first." Sophie agreed that this was a reasonable plan, and the two girls climbed off their swings to explore the rest of the playground together. David finally extracted himself from his child-sized swing and walked over to Sarah's bench. "I hope that was okay," he said, settling beside her. "I have a tendency to get carried away at playgrounds. Occupational hazard of being a single dad, I guess." "It was perfect," Sarah replied, wiping the tears from her cheeks. That was the first time I've heard her voice in 3 years. David's eyes widened with understanding. She's been through something. Foster care before I adopted her. She just stopped talking. The doctors said it might be temporary, but as time went on. Sarah trailed off, watching Emma and Sophie navigate the playground equipment together. I started to wonder if I'd ever hear her voice. Kids have their own timeline for healing, David said gently. Sometimes they just need the right moment. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching their daughters play. Emma was chattering now, making up elaborate stories about the playground being a castle and the slides being secret passages to different kingdoms. Thank you, Sarah said finally. For what? For treating her like she was already whole. Not like something that needed to be fixed. David smiled. She never needed fixing. She just needed to feel safe enough to let her voice out. As the afternoon began to fade into evening, the girls reluctantly agreed it was time to leave. Emma ran over to Sarah, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Mom, can we come back tomorrow? She asked, the word, Mom, hitting Sarah's heart like a perfect chord. We can come back anytime you want, sweetheart, Sarah replied, pulling Emma into a hug that felt different somehow. Complete. Emma turned to David and Sophie, who were gathering their things nearby. Will you be here tomorrow? She asked. We'll be here Friday, David replied. Same time, same swings. It's a date, Emma declared, then looked surprised at her own boldness. Sophie clapped her hands together. Yes, and we can bring bread for the ducks. As they walked back to their cars, Emma slipped her hand into Sarah's. Mom, yes, sweetheart, I like talking. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. I like listening to you talk. The parking lot was nearly empty now, and the playground had grown quiet except for the gentle creaking of the empty swings moving in the evening breeze. Sarah helped Emma into the car, her heart still racing from the afternoon's miracle. As they drove home, Emma kept up a steady stream of chatter from the backseat. She talked about the ducks and the swings and her new friend Sophie. She asked questions about clouds and wondered if they could plant flowers in their backyard like the ones she had seen by the pond. Sarah answered every question, savored every word, and marveled at how quickly the world could change. This morning, she had been the mother of a silent child. Tonight, she was simply a mother, listening to her daughter's voice fill up all the quiet spaces that had defined their life together. When they pulled into their driveway, Emma was still talking. And tomorrow, can we go to the library? Sophie said they have story time, and I think I might like to hear some stories. And maybe someday, I could read a story out loud too. I think that sounds like a wonderful plan, Sarah said, turning to face her daughter in the backseat. Emma smiled, the same gentle smile she had always given Sarah, but somehow brighter now. I love you, Mom. I love you too, Emma. Always. And as they walked up the path to their front door together, Sarah realized that sometimes the most important conversations begin not with words, but with the courage to break the silence.